I see myself as a musician. I think that's the word that best describes what I do. I conduct, I compose, I teach, I curate. So it's all about music. My name is Esa-Pekka Salonen. I used to be the chief conductor of the Philharmonia Orchestra back in the day, and now I'm called the conductor laureate. I also conduct the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. I'm the conductor emeritus of the LA Philharmonic and the Swedish Radio Symphony Orchestra, and I'm a composer as well. I'm happy when I feel that my work is flowing, when I feel that I'm doing a high quality work within the framework of my abilities. I'm happy if a concert goes well. I'm happy if I feel that my composition work is flowing. As I get older, I have found other sources of happiness and moments of happiness, and many of them have to do with nature and existing in a moment. But at this point in my life, time has become more valuable, and I want to spend my remaining time on things I really love, working with people I really like. I chose 3 very different Finnish works for my program in the festival hall. The first piece is by Lotta Wennäkoski, who is one of the leading composers of her generation. This is called Flounce. It's a piece in the great tradition of sprightly concert openers, because it's by Lotta, who is a very sophisticated composer and has a very sort of keen ear for color and texture. It's joyous and energetic in its character, but it's still kind of unusual in the way it sounds. And it's full of sort of glittery, shiny moments, but there's a certain strangeness to it that makes it very attractive in my ears. The second piece in the program is Viola Concerto by Magnus Lindberg, my fellow student at the Sibelius Academy since we were both 15 years old. We became friends and we've been working together ever since. The soloist is Lawrence Power, who is one of the leading viola players on the planet at the moment. Really fabulous player and very open, curious, intelligent musician. And Lawrence, in the sort of old tradition of Haydn and Mozart and the Baroque composers before them, does embellish the solo line. So no 2 performances are exactly alike. Sibelius' first is a piece where he's still kind of fusing, morphing the different influences into a language that would become his own. There's a lot of Tchaikovsky influence, but there's also kind of elements of German music. For me, it's really fascinating to conduct because it's like a clearly a young person's piece. So everything is, all the emotions are over the top, and he has so much to say, and the challenge of conducting that piece is just to find the sort of point where it cooks nicely and creates this sort of perfect meal. I have learned to really enjoy moments of equilibrium. Those moments when I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to do anything else. And that quite often happens around here. I love bird song. June in Northern Europe is fantastic because the birds are super active and, you know, they're mating and they're trying to find a mate, and song is the best way to attract a partner. And of course, when all that is done, end of July, August, the only birds that are still singing are birds that sing for fun. So there's no clearly defined biological function or purpose. They're just singing because they like to sing and they seem to be enjoying it. So those moments, you know, the moments that don't have any particular purpose, function in terms of what we are supposed to be doing, I love those moments.